What's going on, everybody? It's MidwestReefer and I'm back with another video today. So today we're going to be picking up where we started off on the last video and catching up on the Pico reef, aka the Duncan Dojo, and seeing how everything has progressed. And let me tell you, it's progressed a lot. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we get. Okay, so as you can see, a lot has changed since the last video that I put out. So let's go ahead and dive in and see some of the new goodies. So the first thing I want to show you guys is going to be this Two Little Fishies Nano Mag Cleaner. And I really like this thing. First off, the aesthetics, right? Looks very pleasing, looks very good on the tank. Of course, you guys know that I am all about the aesthetics. And with that being said, it performs very well and it's a lot different than some of the other magnetic algae scrapers out there. So let me explain why. First of all, the magnet is really strong, which is going to help with soft and hard algae on the tank. Some of these magnetic scrapers aren't very strong, so you really got to do a lot of work to get the algae off, and sometimes you got to go in there with your hand. This one so far has been pretty good, although I don't let the algae build up too much. It's really thin and really light, so it doesn't slosh around a lot of water or slap any kind of water around. And then obviously it's able to fit behind rocks and crevices and things like that as well, which is going to come in handy when trying to clean the glass. The nano flipper that I use on the fluval is perfect for the fluval, so like a 10-gallon tank or larger. And this tank, the flipping action just creates too much water dispersal and sloshes around too much water. It's just a little too big for this tank. And then those mag float cleaners or whatever, those are junk. The ones you buy at Petco and stuff, they're weak, they don't scrub algae very good, they're big, they move a lot of water around. Let's move on. The next thing that I got in here is that high door 180-gallon pump, and I didn't have it in the last video because I was just kind of cycling the tank, didn't have nothing in there, but I have it in there now and it works out fine. It's very quiet, as you can't hear. And the benefit of this is, since I didn't have a split head here for the return pump, I couldn't point one up at the surface and one down at the corals. So this guy focuses on the corals and the flow in there for that, and this guy focuses on the water breaking the surface tension at the top for oxygen exchange. So it's a nice little pairing there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I did for hardware, adding hardware to the tank from the last video. Now let's get into what everybody notices the most, and that's of course the corals. As you see, front and center is the Duncan Dojo, the king of the castle, or the king of the Duncan Dojo, I guess. And this is the whole inspiration for this whole project, was to give the Duncan its own place to live, get it out of the corner of that fluval and really showcase it. When I first started reef keeping, I thought I only liked euphyllias, and I only like frog spawns and hammer corals, but over time this Duncan has taken over my heart, and this is my favorite coral. The light doesn't do the coral justice right now, through the camera anyway, but the heads are looking amazing. The coloration is looking really good on it. It's out, it's about, and it's ruling its domain. Everything else is second class to this, right? And it's doing very good. I have it on coral putty right now. I'm not going to put it down with glue just quite yet. I never do that with any of my corals until I know that where they're at is good and they're going to progress there. But all these corals are doing good here, so this is probably where they'll permanently stay, but only time will tell. Now I have been feeding the coral reefroids. I'm not going to go too much into how I do it this video, but I will let you know, if you're not feeding your corals, for one, make sure you try feeding your corals, because you'll be pleasantly surprised how fun it is, as well as how good they react to it. And then the other part is, if you're not feeding them reefroids, what are you doing? The reefroids are amazing. I've seen so much progression from this coral since I've started feeding them reefroids. The heads have literally doubled in size, and it's only been about 2 weeks. The stuff is like crack cocaine for corals, I'll tell you what. So definitely try out some of that reefroids. I highly recommend it. It's done well for me. Anyway, as you can tell, I have a few new corals in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at these guys. So this guy right here is an acan coral, and I know that they have a different name now. There's been some different studies going on, but I'm going to call it an acan coral because that's how I knew it back then. So The colors, again, can't show justice on this, but it's actually green and orange. It looks blue and red here, but it's green and orange. Think of Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles, and that's what the color scheme is on this coral. And hopefully this guy will encrust or fill up this frag plug and continue to butt heads and add some nice color to my tank. I'm very excited for this coral. This is one of my other favorite corals. Is going to be an acan coral. And then this guy right down here, I'm calling this like my radiation frag, and I don't know what it is. I'm pretty sure the guy at my LFS told me, and my mind just must have been somewhere else. I wasn't paying attention. But if anybody knows what this coral is and can help me out, that'd be pretty awesome. I would love to know what I have in my tank, but it seems to be doing pretty well. And then we have the fighting conch, and I pulled this guy out of the fluval as well. And it's just to keep the sand bed clean like it's doing now, keep the rocks clean a little bit, and then also add a little bit of waste to the tank, because of course the beneficial bacteria does need a little bit of waste to stay alive. But between feeding the corals and the invert that I have in here, this should be more than enough. Those levels are looking fine so far, so good. So we'll keep rocking with it. So anyway, this is the tank, but real quick, I'm going to leave you guys with a video of it, but I just wanted to address something real quick, because I've seen a couple people having some issues with this online and on just different outlets. So I just want to address some things. Yes, I did skip cycle my tank again. I did it a little differently this time than I did the first time, right? The first time I used live rock and live sand. I put a little bit of seed in there from Chem, and that's how I got my first tank started. This tank I used dry rock and dry sand. However, I did use the Biospire, which has beneficial bacteria already in there. That's what we're looking for. I did use 50% of the tank water from the fluval, as well as I had some pre-seeded biological media, ceramic media that's been sitting in the fluval for over a year, as well as some filter floss that's been sitting in the fluval. So I have all that goodies sitting on that material, and it's already cycled because of that. The other reason why I'm so successful with it is because I didn't overload the tank with a bio load. So yes, there's stuff in the tank, but the corals don't produce that much waste, and I'm not feeding them every day. And when I am feeding them, I am spot feeding them, which means I'm using a dropper and putting it directly into their mouths. And then also the snail doesn't create that much waste. It does create enough to keep the biological media alive, but not enough to overwork it. And that's the key. You do not want to overwork the tank when you first set one up, especially when you skip cycle it, because you did skip the time that it would take to fully build up on all the surfaces of the tank. So what I see a lot of new reefers making mistakes is that they skip cycle their tank. They use bacteria in a bottle, and they're using live rock, and then they throw like 3 or 4 fish in there, and they're throwing like every coral that they can find in there, and that's a little too much too fast. When you first skip cycle the tank, it might be good enough to hold maybe 1 fish, maybe 2 fish if you're lucky, but not 4 or 5. So you get your 2 clownfish, you're getting your goby, you're getting your damsel. You need to slow down. I would suggest put 1 fish in there and then wait 2 weeks, put another fish in there, wait 2 weeks, and do it like that until the beneficial bacteria has time to fully build up in your tank. Otherwise, you're just going to overload it. It's not going to be able to keep up with the demand that your tank needs, and you're going to have a tank crash. So keep that in mind. When you're doing the skip cycling for the new reefers out there, take your time with putting stuff into the tank. You can put a few corals in there because, again, they don't produce a lot of waste, but don't put that many fish in there at first because you will crash your tank. I have no fish in this tank, and I only have 1 snail in here. And like I said, the tank was already seeded from an established tank. So that's how I did it, guys. I just wanted to kind of have a disclaimer out there, since some of you guys are using my videos to set up your own saltwater tanks. I do want to make sure that I am leading you guys to success and not to failure. But the tank is looking amazing. Everything is going well. I'm definitely going to go in more detail about the individual equipment on here. I know a lot of you guys are probably curious about the light and kind of scheduling. So I'll let you guys know that in the next video. But for now, I'm just going to leave you guys with some clips of the tank. Pico double G.
Pico double G. Top dog, bite them all, yeah, I'm burning it up. DPGC, you should be turning it up. CBT, LBC, yeah, we hooking back up. And when they bang us in the club, baby, you got to get up. Cause homies, thug homies, yeah, they giving it up. Low life, yo life, boy, we live.